Hello friends, and welcome to today's episode. Thanks to a kind act by an Alameda County Sheriff's deputy, a homeless man who is 67 years old and lives in the East Bay was able to meet his birth mother for the first time in 65 years. Have you ever avoided a poor person at all costs by walking around them or even crossing the street? There's a good chance you've seen someone like Mick Myers asking for money on the streets of your town. Myers said, "Most people just rush by without even looking at me." But after running into Myers more than once, Deputy Sheriff Jacob Swalwell of Alameda County had a serious talk with him one day. "I had told him so many times not to beg near a busy freeway on Foothill Boulevard in Hayward," the officer said. He had seen Myers several times and told him not to beg. Swalwell asked him for his ID, but when he gave it to him, Swalwell was shocked. "When I asked for his ID, he told me he didn't have one. I asked him right away, 'Why don't you have an ID?'" recalled Swalwell. At that point, the former truck driver, who was 67, and the deputy, who was 33, started talking. "He didn't drink and he didn't do drugs. He didn't use tobacco," the deputy said. The deputy asked Myers why he wasn't on Social Security. "I said, I can't get it because I can't even get an ID," he said. He was an old person. The deputy said, "I found out that he was disabled and had been living on the streets for 30 years. What Deputy Swalwell told Myers is still in his mind. "Well, now you have someone to help you. I told him, I'm going to help you get an ID so you can get your Social Security and get off the street." That was the start of a conversation that would change his life, Myers said. Swalwell remembered that he thought the job would be easy at the time. It turned out to be a very bad guess. Swalwell quickly found out that getting Myers a new legal ID card from the state wasn't easy at all. Mick Myers was no longer on file at the DMV. He stopped driving cars years ago, so the DMV no longer has any information about him. The DMV had rules for Myers to follow in order to get a new state ID card. He had to bring his birth certificate and 2 forms that showed he lived in California. "How does a poor person have 2 places where they live?" the deputy asked. In December, KPIX5 told how the deputy helped Myers get a new ID from the state. The Alameda County Sheriff's Department and the deputy's church leader both sent legal letters saying that Myers lived in Alameda County. The officer then helped him find his birth certificate. Myers had never seen it before. The paper showed that he was born at Highland Hospital in Oakland. It also listed the names of the people who raised him. Myers knew he had been given up for adoption, but he didn't know why. He said, "I didn't even know I was adopted until I was 16. Myers was born in San Leandro and went to Pacifica High School, where he was in the marching band. But Myers said that he always felt ignored by his adopted brothers when he was at home. He remembered how much his adopted mother loved him, but he said the rest of the family ignored him. Myers was cut off when his parents died. In the end, all of his childhood friends died. He felt completely alone at that point. Myers said, "I've been as alone as a person could be." All of that was about to change, though. His trip may have begun under an overpass near a busy crossing in Hayward, but the 67-year-old Myers had no idea that his next stop would be finding out that his birth mother was still alive. Mark Askins is a private detective who has worked for 25 years. He watched the KPIX5 show and read the stories. He said over and over, "I'm lonely. I have no one in my life," Askins said. Askins works for a charity called Miracle Messages as a helper. The goal of the group is to get people who are homeless back in touch with long-lost family members. The detective said, "There's always someone in our lives whose birthday we think about as we fall asleep at night." Myers had always wondered what happened to his real mother and whether or not she was still alive. He knew that his birth mother's first name was Marie and that his real last name was Oakley. With Myers' permission, Askins looked through old log books at the Alameda County Courthouse to see if any of his cousins were still alive. Askins had a eureka moment in a big cloth book with a leather cover. He gave KPIX5 a list of cases and stopped near the bottom to read 2 names. "And here we have a case involving Wiley Albert Oakley and Marie Pauline Oakley," said Askins. He wrote down the case numbers and asked the clerk's office to get out some old boxes with microfilm about the cases. He found some important information about Marie Pauline Oakley on the microfilm. In court records, it was written that Marie ran away with a man from the Alameda Naval Air Station when she was only 16 years old. After getting married in Reno, the pair went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where his family lived in the Smoky Mountains. She then came home while she was pregnant and with a young child. Her mother tried to get rid of them. Court papers made it clear why a divorce was needed. Marie Oakley was not at the age of consent, Askins said, quoting from the old court records. Askins then used a few other ways to find information in his search for Marie. He was worried that because Myers was so old, Marie might not still be living if he found her. But he found a woman with the same name, got her phone number, and called it. On the other end of the line, a woman picked up the phone. Askins found Myers' birth mother in a port town in Humboldt County, about 300 miles to the north. Marie Pauline Oakley, who goes by the name Polly and is 85 years old, is Myers' birth mother. I've often thought what he might have done. But at the same time, I just thought he had a good family because that's what I had been told, said Polly. Polly filled in some of the unknown and scary parts of her trip. My life was not what I thought it would be when I got married, Polly said. When Polly was a teenager, she was in a bad situation when her family moved to Tennessee. She soon got pregnant in a place where she didn't know anyone. Her husband gave all of his money to his mother and then left Polly alone for months at a time to take measuring tours of the Smoky Mountains. She lived in the hills in an old shack. The house was in terrible shape. Polly said there were so many holes in the wall that snakes and other animals could get in. There was neither power nor running water in the shack. Polly's first child was born when she was 17 years old. I had a bed to sleep in, but the baby didn't have a crib. She said, I had to put 2 chairs together, put a food locker on top of them, and wire up the top so it wouldn't fall on him. Polly said that she made sure she and her baby didn't go outside after dark because that was when mountain lions and bears were most busy. Polly didn't have any money, so she asked her mother-in-law for some of her husband's pay from the Navy. But Polly had to face a hard truth. Her mother-in-law wouldn't give her enough money to buy formula unless she did some hard work for her. She used a big metal tub, a washboard, and multiple trips to the river with a bucket to fill the tub with water. She heated the tub over an open fire. Polly also remembers being so hungry that she stole veggies from her neighbor's yard so she could eat. She had had enough at last. Polly called her mother in the East Bay and asked her to please come home. When her mother picked her up from the train stop, the girl's own mother did not recognize her. When she got back to the Bay Area, she was already expecting her second child. Mick Myers was that child. Polly said that when Myers was only 2 years old, he was found to have a hole in his stomach that could kill him. The boy was always crying and couldn't gain weight. Even though she had to work more than one job to make ends meet, she did not have enough money to pay for the surgery. Oakley's mother thought of a way to help. She told her daughter that a family at church wanted to adopt the little boy, and she persuaded her that it would be best for the boy to be adopted. I had my back to the wall. I had to make the best decision for him. I would never have been able to pay for that surgery. I didn't know if he died if he didn't get the surgery. Polly cried. So, when Polly heard that her younger second-born son was looking for her, she didn't pause. Polly told Askins she wanted to see Myers. He thought he was alone in the world, but now he finds out he has family. Myers' birth mother smiled, now I have one more person to love. At first, they talked on the phone. Myers, Deputy Swalwell, and Askins were all at the Alameda County Sheriff's Department when the call came in. Swalwell put in a phone number. When a woman picked up the phone, Myers said his real name. Myers said, "This is David Charles Oakley," over the phone. "My son?" Polly yelled. Mother and son talked about their lives and decided that they should meet in person. About 2 weeks later, Myers got on a small plane for the first time in his life. The plane was being flown by a volunteer crew. Swalwell and Askins also came along. They flew up in good weather, but there was a change in the weather report that looked scary. The plane arrived in Humboldt County on a small runway. Myers got off the plane with a high school yearbook and a new guitar that Deputy Swalwell had given him as a present. Right away, Myers met some of his new family members. Shannon, his sister, came to the airport to pick him up. She greeted him and held out her hand as he walked off the runway. "I'd be your niece," said Shannon. Mick looked at her with wide eyes and asked, "Niece?" as he gave her his hand. Gary, Polly's third husband, was also at the airport. He, too, was glad to have a new stepson. The 3 guests got into Shannon's car and drove a short distance to Polly's house. Then, when Myers walked through the door, he saw his mother. She saw him, and it had been 65 years since they had last hugged. "Who would have thought that something like this could have happened to anyone, let alone me?" cried out Myers. Polly told Deputy Swalwell to go back the way he came. She told him, "I want to see your wings because you brought my son home to me." Polly showed him pictures of her family on the wall and pictures she had kept of him when he was a child. Myers also talked on the phone with his bigger brother. The call was quiet and serious. Polly said, "Today has to be a lot to handle." She saw that her son from a long time ago had a lot to learn. Polly got married 3 times and worked at Fairchild Semiconductor in San Jose. She also raised horses. She is happily married and has kids, grandkids, and even great-grandkids. She has always liked kids, and it makes her happy to take care of and raise them. She is the original mama bear. You don't want to cross her when it comes to her family, especially the kids. When she heard about how hard things were for Myers with his new family and how he ended up without a place to live, she felt a lot of guilt. Polly said, "I just felt so sad, and now I'm thinking about all the things I did with my other kids, all the things they did, all the experiences they had, and all the good things they had. When he told me he had been treated like an outsider, I felt so sad. He wasn't hurt physically, but he was hurt mentally because he wasn't liked." Polly noticed that Myers seemed to have a bit of a wall around him that she couldn't see. But she knew how hard it must be to be homeless, so she got it. Myers told the host and reporter for KPIX5, Elizabeth Cook, that he had to take steps to protect himself on the street. Myers said, "If you live on the street and you're alone, you're a walking target for bad people. So I hide the fact that I'm a person by putting on this ugly mask." At the meeting, Mick started to loosen up, and his face became more friendly. As he talked with his mother, they began to hold hands. Myers took the family's pug, Susie, in his arms and fed her and another dog, Peanut, some food. He was no longer by himself. He didn't just get a mom. Polly laughed, he had a whole family, and they all came from him at one time. Even though mother and son had their whole lives together, time was short. The weather was changing quickly, so the pilot had to fly back to his home in the Bay Area. But not before a new family picture was taken in the garden with Myers holding Susie. All these years of wondering why things turned out the way they did. Why did they do that? What if? What now? What in the future? It looks like all of that is gone now. Myers cried as he sat next to his mother. She put her hands on his arms and didn't move them. Before they hugged each other twice and said goodbye, everyone learned some easy facts. "It made me think about other people in Mick's situation," Swalwell said. A Skins, a private detective, said, "We're all family, and we're all someone's family." And finally, Polly stood up, holding her son's arms with both hands and staring right into his eyes. She told him, "Having you gives me a piece of my heart back and means the world to me." The holidays are already being talked about. Polly has a spare room, so she offered it to Myers. But she knows that he needs to think about a lot of things before making a choice. The Deputy Sheriff's Association of Alameda County was so touched by Myers' story and by Deputy Swalwell's chance act of kindness and Marcus Skin's hard work to find Mick's birth mother that they decided to help. The association helps people in Alameda County who don't have much money. Members of the charity saw how the policeman and the homeless man were able to connect on a deeper level as people. The group has started a fundraising drive to help Mick and other people who are homeless. The money raised will help pay for things like food, clothes, shelter, schooling, and medical care. Anyone can make a gift in Myers' name that can be taken off their taxes. The webpage for the organization is where people can find out more and give money. People can give money, send cards, and write letters to Mick Myers. With miracle messages, Myers is one of a rising number of people who have done well. In 3 years, volunteers have put 110 homeless people back in touch with their families. Myers is now getting help from Medi-Cal and has applied for Social Security. Anyone can pitch in. Sometimes, all it takes is an act of kindness done out of the blue. That's it for today, friends. Please let us know what you think about this story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for more amazing stories.